everybody, it's your course director Emily Ray here. Just wanted to take a look at the revised portfolio sites that you guys submitted. So the expectation was that you took the feedback provided to you in editing for the web and then to roll that over into this month and enhance those portfolio sites, not just with that feedback, but with elements of your developing personal brand. So what I've gone and done is I've loaded all of your sites up in a browser window, and I'm going to go over and go through them one by one and just give you a little bit of insight and maybe some direction on where you can take those sites from here. All right, so here we are starting off with the portfolio of Joshua here. So we've got a nice full banner image. I have some concerns about the way that your name is kind of going across this image here. It kind of obscures your face right along the middle point there. It's a great image, but think about kind of the placement of what we see here. Also, like as I begin to scroll, that branding information, so this identity that you've created disappears, right? And like here, I really don't have too much information about whose site this is. Let's jump over to portfolio really quick. And when I'm here on this page, I don't see anything associated with your name. So there is an opportunity and a need to put that branding information up here in the header so that it's available on every page of the site, so it's clear whose site I'm still on. I'm going to jump back to the home page. You identify yourself as a marketing professional. I'm scrolling down, I get a little bit of information about what your interests are and what kind of positions you're seeking. I got your contact information down there, which is great. Again, jumping to portfolio, scrolling down, marketing campaigns and artwork. So here I see some of your work, some highly visual, kind of some really cool things to look at. And as I bring it up in the kind of larger light box window here, I get the title of the work and then a description of the project, which is what I was hoping to see, because really this is the context that helps me understand the content or the image or the piece of work that you've created. So I'm glad to see this addition here on this iteration of your website. Scrolling back up, going to jump next over to the resume page, or at least I thought I was. Nope. Let's see here, resume. Going to go here, it's going to launch up. So what I'm seeing now is kind of just a stylistic difference, right? Here on the home page, we've got this sort of blue and white aesthetic, some color blocking here. On the portfolio page, we've got this banner image in the background and then kind of a tiled kind of mosaic of your work. Here on the resume page, we've got the background again. But one thing to note too is that like using these full banner images in the background, we've got the page title right up here, but I really have to scroll to start to see your work, and then you've got a totally different appearance. So in these sections you have applied a number of different styles that are inconsistent with what you set out before. You had just this blue text on a white background, which was really clean. Now you've added some sort of gray shading on it. You've given it kind of rounded corners and outline, and all of that is just stylistically very different from the cleaner flat design on the front page. So my recommendation is, if you want to stay consistent, to just turn this all into a single white canvas here. You've done a nice job of separating these out in terms of making it scannable, but all of these boxes, right, like makes it look very segmented and a little bit harder to navigate, honestly, especially with like as I'm scrolling and seeing that image in the background. If this was a completely white canvas that this text was on, I think that it would display the information in a better way. Scrolling down here to your bullet points, this to me looks like you actually applied a bullet list style to what we're looking at here. Seems like you copied and pasted it from another environment, and that it's not actually bullets applied as a style here in the web page, but that you just kind of copied a wingding or a little sphere that comes along with the text. So I encourage you to look at sort of the differences stylistically between these two areas. This is a lot of great keyword-rich information. I like the inclusion of the logos here as well. Adds a nice visual element, but again, I'm concerned about the blockiness of what we see, and recommend just a style that's more similar to this section that we're seeing here, which is a lot cleaner. See how it goes full screen too, and it really focuses our eyes on the text here, versus on your portfolio, on the resume page, it's just, there are so many different boxes. There's a lot going on here that that really it kind of takes away from my ability to focus on what I should be focusing on, which is your experience. Last but not least, I'm going to jump to the contact page and just a simple contact form. So again, I'm having some trouble with the background image. It's forcing your content further down on the page, and then here you don't apply any sort of background over it, and it seems to kind of bleed into kind of obscurity over in this area. So again, I think there's some opportunity for more consistency with what you created and put out on the homepage. And also lastly, why should people contact you? What types of connections are you looking to make? Do you want to collaborate? Do you want to be hired? Do you want to seek any particular sort of position on another team? That would be a great place to detail that there. Overall, this is a nice evolution of what I saw before, but as I have mentioned to you guys, that your portfolio is a living, breathing thing that should constantly be in flux, because as a media strategist or marketing professional, you will always be doing better work, and your portfolio should reflect that. So keep coming back to this and keep adding new content and tweaking it to the point that it feels like an accurate representation of you in the industry. All right, so next we've got Tyler's. Very clean. You've got your name up here at the top, home, resume, projects and contact. I'm scrolling down. It looks like I came to the projects page first. Let me go back to home. So just a quick introduction, a favorite quote, a recent project where I can learn more about what you do. I've got your contact information here. It's very clean and very easy to navigate. Jumping next over to resume. So this content is very similar to what we're seeing here, right? And then it pushes kind of the real resume meat down a little bit further, right? So I would say, I would say that kind of more important than bringing this image over again and having this big block up top would be bringing this content up higher on the page, so I'm not having to scroll to see it. With your headings, you'll also want to capitalize this second letter here, so have it be title case. And then one of the things I remember is giving you some feedback about spreading this out a little bit more. I'd say there's still an opportunity to put a little bit more spacing in between, let's say, the where you worked and the description of the job and these areas here, because you want to make sure that it's easily read, and the more dense that the text is, it's harder to scan, and it's not as easy to absorb. So definitely some opportunities there that you can take a look at. Projects, jumping over. So here's a sampling of the different things. I remember really liking how this was laid out in the last time you submitted it. So here we've got your Real Deal Tacos, your video portrait, and your pitch presentation. I feel curious about why did you choose to include the pitch presentation here as a visual element instead of linking to it like you link to these other things. So that's an inconsistent sort of flow in the way you're presenting information. So wondering what your thought process is behind that, because here we don't have to click anywhere to see it, but in all of these other places we do. So if you want to give someone a visual right here on this page, why not a screenshot of the Real Deal Taco website and then linking to the full site, or maybe a thumbnail of this video portrait. So something for you to think about. What is your intention for sharing that visual right there? Last but not least, let's jump over to the contact page. Simple form, looking forward to answering your email, but why should people contact you, right? So again, are you for hire? For what types of work? Those are all things that you can explain in more detail here on the contact page. Next up, we've got Sarah's site. So, I'm seeing kind of an evolution of your logo here to kind of reflect, more your real name. So we know right off that you're a media communicator and wear many hats: artist, author, musician, leader. Scrolling down, we've got the About You. Liking to see it's a great headshot and then just a short little blurb, and I can learn more about you. I'm assuming that that's going to take me to the About Me page. I've got your mission statement, which lets me know, more about your work and, what you're looking to do. And then down here, just kind of a quick sampling of, some of your favorite projects or the projects that you're curating to showcase here. Again, we've got some of the visual art, some of your author works, and some of your music, and then the information about leadership, and you've got some great testimonials here as well. So this is awesome. Everything is laid out. It's clean. It's easy to navigate. There's a lot of information here on the home page. It's kind of like you've given me like a teaser of these varying things, which is great because if I don't go anywhere else, at least on this page, I'll get a large sampling of what it is that you do. You've kind of created a pattern here. You're sharing 3 of these works, showing me more media, but here you're showing me 5 of them, and then a link here you've given me 3. So I suggest, just go with the 3 up here in the grid as well, just to be consistent with what you've got going on there. I'm going to poke through these pages at the top. So we've got the About Me, which is just more on your background and kind of your bio and what you love to do, which is great. I would think about maybe moving this picture up slightly so that it creates a nice border here with this text, a nice boundary at the top. I think that would, instead of kind of centering it vertically here, aligning at the top would look a little bit better. Under portfolio, so these are kind of the deeper dive into your media art and the different campaigns and the things that you've done. So all this is great. I'm just kind of randomly click on one just to see how you're setting this up. So here you've done a nice job of giving it a title and and giving us the backstory, which is great. You helping me understand kind of the scope of the work that you're creating. So this is all really great. I remember seeing that this was very filled out the first time, but I do see a number of revisions to this that are working to make this site even stronger. Under resume, so kind of your work experience, your skills, this is laid out really beautifully. Wondering if these are true bullets or if it's just a dash space situation where you're doing kind of like a text-based dash. A lot of times when you're using bullets, and so like it's a small thing, but I know that you pay attention to detail. So here you have dash, no space between these elements, and so what that tells me is that you've kind of arbitrarily created this bulleted look instead of highlighting the text within. It looks like maybe use Wix or Weebly here on this site, and then going up to your WYSIWYG editor, so where you see the bold and italicized and all those other formatting options, and you'll see the bulleted list icon up there, and you're going to click that, and it's going to basically generate code behind the scenes that lets people know that this is a bulleted list and that these are individual list items. I recommend that you employ that that style here instead of sort of arbitrarily creating it with the dashes. And then last but not least, let's go to the contact page. Simple form, perfect, right? So this is what I was hoping to see. Have a job opening, need help, any other questions? So all of this is really great. Sarah, you've given us the reason. I might also just, because on this page we have your initials, but we don't have like your full name, I would just kind of repeat like your name and the work that you want to do. So in the same way that you've got it here on the home page, I would just replicate that here on the contact page as a reminder kind of the number of ways that you can assist folks. All right, next up we've got Eric's site. So this was super strong the first time I saw it. We've got his cool logo up at the top. I'm not sure about it, it doesn't disappear, but it goes to a darker red on the hover. I might make that a bit more easy to see, the hover color here on this red background. I love the big, bold, strategic, purposeful design. We've got projects about contact and the ways we can connect with him on social media. I'm scrolling down the page. We've got, kind of these snapshots of the project, and I'm not sure if I have this blown up, but I'm going to. No, it looks like I am on the actual size. It just seems like maybe it's a little big. So I think that some of the thumbnails that you've chosen here, so this is great because it gives me a very big sort of, full idea of the scope of this work. But here you've got like graphic design, web design, but like you've chosen a thumbnail that doesn't even give me like a real complete picture of the logo or some of the elements that you created. So with these ones that are more zoomed in, I would definitely recommend, if you can, like creating a thumbnail that gives this type of visual context within kind of the story you're trying to tell about these larger projects, instead of something that's like so zoomed in that we can't even really see exactly what it is there. So I'm going to just click on one of these. Let's see, I'm very curious about this one. Chameleonaire. And so what I'm loving to see is that you're putting this in somewhat of a case study format. And this is something that I recommend for all students, but it allows you to tell more of the story of the project. And generally, it's not just make a logo, because a logo then turns into a business card, into a social media campaign. And if you're just showing the logo, you're not really, highlighting all of the ways that you could potentially help a client. This is, really shining the light on the ways that, you are kind of flexing your muscles in a lot of different areas. That, media strategy is more than just being able to design, it's designing for a purpose. So I love to see that you are doing this in this way, Eric. I'm going to go, let's see, I think we started on the projects page. I'm just going to click on another one. So here we've got web design and development. You give kind of a statement of purpose up here at the top. I might go ahead and say that this needs to be left aligned instead of the center aligned there. Not sure about like what this text is. It seems like it's kind of floating out here. Like it doesn't have kind of the like a styled hierarchy that says maybe it's a heading or a subheading. It looks a little kind of like it's floating, so I'm not sure about the purposefulness of that. Scrolling down, we get to see the website you created, and I like that the thumbnails or the images that you've included here kind of show off different elements of the design of the site. So that's awesome. I'm going to jump over to the About page, just a little bit about you and kind of your background. Curious as to this open space here. Why does the text only go that far when we can see that kind of it extends out, the canvas, if you will, extends out all the way over here. If it's just a stylistic choice, that's one thing. Because it kind of leads me to believe that maybe it is because you pulled it over this way, right? So that you've created sort of a visual barrier. And if it's purposeful, I can see the intent there, obviously. But if it's not, I want to highlight it and make you think about if that's what your intention was. Last but not least, contact. So let's chat, open to new projects. Eric, your work is just absolutely so professional, and it's been a real joy to see you, kind of highlight and showcase what you do. So happy, and this goes for everybody, but happy to continue to be a resource for you guys after you leave Portfolio 3 and continue on in your MCBS degree program. So here we've got Erica's site. We've got, I believe this is a Weebly template. Yep, so right down there. We get kind of like this be creative, so a call to action. We've got your name up here at the top. It says be creative, but what does it say about you? This is your portfolio site. Is there any information that you can include up here that's a bit more personal that tells us, I know we get a little bit about you down here, and it says that you're learning about communications, but I see there's being more of an opportunity for that introduction a little bit higher. Ways that we can connect with you elsewhere, which is great. They seem kind of like they're floating off here, and the alignment is somewhat strange in this area. Curious if you've thought about just using icons and the visual components of this that immediately kind of resonate for us as these social medias. LinkedIn is also spelled wrong here. Gonna scroll down the page, a little bit about you. I love the picture, and you've done a nice job with a little bit about you, just to give the background, and then some of your education and skills awards. Curious if maybe you want to move this text maybe up side by side here. That way all of this white space could kind of be eliminated. You can bring your projects up a little bit higher. So here I have kind of like a slideshow, and it's playing just basically like pictures of these, these things that you've created for your classes. I'm going to click on one just to see if it opens up in a larger window. It doesn't seem like it does, and so for me that's a bit of, I want to know more, like what is this that I'm looking at? What did you create? Why are you sharing it? What was the software you used? Give me a title and an explanation of what you did, just so I can understand kind of the full scope of the work that you're able to do. Jumping over to my work, so here an array of skills showcase. We've got, so here's where you give me a bit more of that. This is a logo I designed. Going off the logo I created the business card. So this is, you've done a nice job with this here, but it seems like there's also the opportunity for that within that slideshow. With these videos, I'd like to see a title, and I'd like to see kind of what your role or what it is you're looking to showcase with this, right? Like, were you the camera operator? Were you the editor? Were you the cinematographer? These are all things that you have the opportunity to infuse this information into the assets that you're sharing here. So there's not a question about what your role was on this particular project. So last but not least, jumping over to contact, just to get in touch. The best way to reach me is this. If you want to put looking for someone to put their best foot forward. I like that you have included this here. What I'll say is there's not a ton of information on this page, and this is kind of a sentiment that I will I am going to echo to everybody. But it's just like, is this page by itself necessary? And I'm not just talking about this particular contact page, but ask yourself of any page where you just don't have much to say or much going on there, because there's an extra click that someone has to go to get there. So is there a way that you could present this maybe in another page or another area? One idea might be to get your contact form into the footer of your website so that it's available on every page that you're going to. Just some thoughts, but ultimately your portfolio is going to be of best service to you if it's able to communicate your skill set and create a nice avenue for people to get in touch. So definitely I throw these kind of ideas out, but you need to take them in and filter them through like what your needs are for the site moving forward. Let's take a look at Crystal's site. So here we have what looks like a blog, right? So these are your portfolio assignments. These look like some of your editing for the web assignments. So the first thing I see is the blog. And is that what you, is that your intention? Do you, the first thing you want me to know is that you're a student? Because there's nothing else here that kind of identifies who you are, what your aim is, even particularly within the world of media. So, and also, I can look at these and know that these are assignments, but could a stranger, right? These might just look like, blog posts that you've created just for fun. So it seems to me that, you need to kind of make a statement about identity and kind of the effort and intent of the website here. It's great that you've included these other areas in social media where I can connect. I'm going to jump over to experience here and to see, what we've got. I see your logo up here, but one thing is that your identity, in terms of the brand that you established on the home page with your name is completely gone. And I'm kind of on a resume page here that looks like it could use some styles, right? So something visually different, like maybe this says experience up here, or in a kind of a heading font, and then maybe a subtitle for where you worked in the dates, and then bullets for these, right? So more attention needs to be paid to the styles on this page. And then, so here we've got skills, and here we've got education. But something else to note is the navigation has totally disappeared. Like, I have no way to get back to any other part of your site. I can't go to the home page or the about page or anywhere because all of that has disappeared. You've basically stranded me on this page. Your navigation needs to stay in the same place, as well as your branding information. From page to page, it acts as an anchor so people know how to navigate. Now I have to hit the back button to go here. It says experience, so like, okay, your resume makes sense there. And I know that on this page, this was the logo that you have started to create for your personal brand, but there's nothing that kind of connects this and communicates it to your name, because you haven't associated it, right? Like, I don't see this next to your name anywhere, so I can't understand this logo as some artwork that you created to represent yourself at this point. So on the About page here, I see a nice image and then a small little bit of text. And then let's take it to the next level, subscribe. But subscribe for what, right? This isn't a contact form because it doesn't say send me a message. You are going to get their address, but for what purpose? Do you send out an email newsletter? Are you just collecting contacts here? More of this needs to be explained as to why people would input their information there. You got a big image that kind of dwarfs the text here. I would say maybe make the image a little bit smaller and move that text up so I'm not having to scroll to see it. There's a lot of opportunity since I don't see a ton of your work. Now, I don't know if you're intending to show these blog posts as your work, but you have contextualized them in these posts as student work or as an assignment, and you're presenting them to the world as you would present them to me as a teacher, and that doesn't make sense for you moving forward. Part of what building a portfolio is to create a curated body of work that showcases your skills in the area that you want to get more paying jobs in. So that's something I'd like you to be thinking about with this portfolio site. And its next step is, how can I choose a few pieces that showcase the skills that I want to get hired for in the future? How can I contextualize this work, meaning talk about it in a way that shows people the full extent of what I can do? All right, next up we've got Javian's site. So I remember this color palette, liking it a lot. There's a lot of energy here. The green lime green looks great on this kind of chalkboard background. We've got your name and the information about how to navigate through your site. A little bit of about you. We've got your mission statement. So there's some weirdness here, like why is this left align on top of center align text? And then are these three separate quotes, or are they one continuous quote? Because putting them in, start quote, end quote on each line makes me think they're three separate quotes. And who said this quote? Is it you? Because if it's you, you don't need to quote yourself, right? So something to think about there. Contact information, which is great. This light blue on the green is a little bit hard on the eyes. It's hard for me to kind of see the detail within the icons. So, maybe the black or charcoal gray would be better to kind of match the color palette you've got going on here. On the About page, so just here is where you are giving us the info about you. I like the way that this is coming together. I might move this image up here so that you create a nice visual line, a boundary, if you will, across the top here. And you got the video. So jumping next to resume here, just some of the places that you've gained some professional experience. What I'll say is this white text is a little hard on the lime green. You might go with black here as well. Jumping over to projects, so you're introducing another color into the scheme. Not sure what if that's purposeful or not. And there's a lot of movement, so it's kind of dynamic in the way that it's showing up. I might recommend kind of some consistency in the thumbnails or in the way that you're displaying this information, just because this it's like floating really high up to the top of this bar instead of kind of flanking this text in a better way. This one looks like there's a lot of space down here. So just a better arrangement of these elements so it doesn't look so scattered, and keeping spacing and dimensions consistent. I am going to just check out, so what I like to see here is that you are detailing the name, and then you're giving me the explanation of this particular project, which is awesome. Something for you guys to be thinking about is, there's a certain, weight that professional work brings to your portfolio. If all you have is student projects to include, that's okay because you are currently students. But as you proceed through the program, I encourage you to think about how can I get other kinds of professional work that I've done for clients available and into my portfolio that I'm sharing. Here we take a look at the contact page. I look forward to answering your email, but why should people contact you? Be sure to detail that. Are you for hire? Do you want to hire somebody else? Do you want to collaborate? These are all kinds of things that you can kind of coach people or invite people to do when they contact you. So here we're going to take a look at .connect Studio. So this is Dimitri Shan's website. So here again we've got the camera and the clippers. We have the photographer here, a little bit about you. It says I was born and raised, and you give us an identity because you give us a photo and you're saying about me, but you don't even say your name here. So there needs to be an introduction for who is this guy, right? Who is me in this scenario? You don't identify yourself in the brand, in the brand or the logo. It's kind of a pseudonym, if you will, but you're kind of bringing yourself into the situation as a individual human person here. So we need kind of that background of who we're looking at. You do not want to center align any kind of bulleted list, right? So like all of that should be left aligned here. Gonna pop next over the gallery. This kind of graphic that's showing up in the background, see how we kind of cover over it with all of your awesome photography here? And because of that, it's like it's not really showing. It doesn't have a purpose back here. I would recommend just kind of this plain marble texture because it adds a noise behind these images that I think these images would stand out or represent even better if that wasn't there. So I'm just going to click on one of these images and it pops up. And I don't see any kind of like contextual information. So do you want to like give us more information about these shoots or the models or anything like that? Or kind of like what was the aim of the shoot might be an interesting thing. Just definitely something you can add a little bit more information to let people know the kinds of work that you want to get into. Services. So here we've got your sessions. Your packages, if you will, that you're for hire. Services kind of denotes that you do more than one thing, or that there's like different kinds of services being. Is this just photography, right? Because here we've got the photography and we've got the clippers. So I was expecting maybe to see something like that included a lot of different things here. This is more like your price sheet, right? It's more like your packages. So maybe this should say packages instead of packages instead of services might be a more intuitive. And then just a simple contact form, always looking forward to working with you, but for what, right? Is it photography? Is it, hair cutting? You could make this a bit more clear here. Overall, this is like really shaping up. It's super nice, easy to navigate. Really looking forward to seeing how this evolves over time. Next up, we have Bernard's site here. So we've got your contact information, your name, and then some, other links that we'll explore here. We've got your Instagram, and then we've got some cool pictures of you kind of doing what you do. This here, multimedia professional, Bernie J, gets lost on the kind of collage that you've created. Now you have to, when you're layering items, whatever you put on the top is actually the most important information because that's why you put it on top. But if you can't read or see or understand what you put on top, then how you've laid it out is ineffective, right? So you see how when I've highlighted it here, just kind of giving it a background color, it stands off a little bit better. What if this is, kind of like it exists like a color block or a color square, and then this text is inside it? Might be another way that you can make your stuff stand out. Here we've got kind of looks like a description of the services that you provide. So really nice. It says that you do content creation and media outreach, digital strategy, which is awesome. These images are really cool looking, but to me, this is all just placeholder content, right? So this is all Wix free stuff or Wix stuff that comes with a template. So in seeing this, it's all stylistically very different from kind of the look and feel of what you've created up here. So all of that stuff that's placeholder content, and this goes for anybody who's using any sort of template, needs to go, right? Like the quickest way to seem unprofessional is to have placeholder content in your site. If you're a content creator, you need to create content for your own site. Also kind of missing is more of an identity with a personal brand. Now I don't see the elements of your personal brand that you created. That needs to be infused here on the site too. I'm going to go to book online. So just it doesn't say you have any services or any classes, so this is definitely kind of a work in progress. Your blog looks like you've kind of created a page for it, but it's not. This is again placeholder content, so all Wix stuff, nothing of your own content yet. And then about me. So here we've got your brief bio. What I'm going to say is anytime you have paragraph text, which is text long enough to sentences long enough to form paragraphs, is you do not want to center align it because it's harder to read. For usability's sake, left aligning, we read from left to right, and it's more taxing on our eyes to have a different starting point in every line, so that's something you want to make sure that you stay away from. I'm going to go to get in touch, and and I'm hovering and I'm clicking and nothing's happening. So this is kind of a link that needs to be revisited. I don't see any sort of contact form, which is fine because you're providing all of your contact information several places around here, but be sure that any link that you have or any button you have goes somewhere, right? There is a lot of opportunity to keep pushing this site to its next best place, particularly with the addition of custom content. Jumping next to Jatay's site, so I remember this color palette from the previous time we looked at it. We see the inclusion of your new brand up here, but it's so small I can't even hardly read it, and then we've got kind of a totally different aesthetic coming in here, right? So the reason why you develop this is to take the place of this other thing, right? To create a site that's crafted around this identity, not to have multiple versions of that, because it's inconsistent and doesn't, I mean, that's the opposite of branding, right? To have multiple identities. So, we talked kind of about this kind of placeholder animation, or it kind of looks like animatronic. The starting point here on this page, we've got like an image of you. It's slightly pixelized, so I recommend maybe getting something that's a bit more high res and make it so it's not cropping. Give us a nice full headshot here, and then so we've got Jatay, 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 Jatay. Right? So there's a lot of redundancy, and you've pushed other content here. Like, I would like to see this stuff up higher and less repetition of your name. Now, the placement of this image, like here, looks like your head on top of this scary model body. So, you'd be thinking about, like, is that what my intention for this is, right? So we've got this background of you and the marketing. Here, this text needs to be left aligned, right? Not center aligned, just for readability purpose. It's got get in touch. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And nothing is happening, guys. So again, you need to make sure that all of your buttons are active. You've got project title section, right? That looks like placeholder content because it's not custom to what you do. We've got a video here, but no title, no detail about what your role in this video was. Are you the talent? Are you the editor? Are you the director? Are you the cinematographer? These are all keywords that need to be infused in the title and explanation of all of these things. I keep seeing project and get in touch, and then I click on get in touch and nothing happens. So there's, functionally some things that are missing here. Really, there isn't so much of an opportunity for you to share more about these projects and your role in it. And when you're doing that, you're really telling people more about your very broad skill set. So again, placeholder content from Wix. I mean, these are kind of like your service provider areas. I dig this sort of gold and purple color scheme of what you've got going on. This looks like placeholder content for Wix again, and then contact in San Francisco, right? I know that is placeholder content for Wix. So this hasn't, aside from the addition of the addition of the logo here, not really seeing tons of changes between the last time this was turned in. So, I've given you a lot of ideas about how to evolve this to its next best place, and you will be revisiting this, guys. You will be redoing these sites or coming back to make changes to them, constantly throughout your program here in MCBS. I was sitting in on a final presentation today, and, a sentiment that I hear over and over again is sort of just the wish that I have paid more attention to curating my portfolio all along the way, so that when you get close to graduation, it doesn't become this urgent need, but something that you have really been evolving and working with over time. So next up, we've got Shannon Nicole Edwards. So I remember you had a logo that didn't quite explain, your full name. So I'm glad to see that change. We've got a nice image of you here, your personal brand. I'm going to scroll down. We learned that you are quickly that you're a media communicator, artist, and photographer. This is looking great. Just a little bit more about you. Learn more. It's going to take me up to the About Me page, which is awesome. I'm going to just jump back really quick because I want to see what else is here on the home page. It seems like this professional information is just pushed really high up against this. Would like to see it brought down just a bit to get, more spacing. There should be at least this much spacing, right? Or I'm sorry, watch my cursors here. there should be at least this much underneath this box before it says the word professionalism, right? So here, you know, you're saying your knowledge level in software, right? But like your idea of a beginner and your idea of an expert could be different things to other people. And what you're basically just showing me is how you know these skills in relationship to each other, right? You know Wix better than you know Photoshop. You know Photoshop better than you know Illustrator. But these, you know, ends of this spectrum are kind of arbitrary because, you know, unless your portfolio backs up what a beginner and an expert are, you're kind of doing this self-judging of your skill set here. It would be more effective just to say that these are all applications that, you know, I have a working proficiency in. And if you want to see that, or if you want to demonstrate that, Shannon, you'd show work that you've done in WordPress, Illustrator, Photoshop, etc. So here's your portfolio, latest work, see more. I'm going to click on it to see what happens. It's kind of loading up some images. And see, as I'm hovering over it, I can see a title. It says Beyond the Roses. And this one, I don't, oh, it's like right here, I think. Beauty. Yep. So like, I don't know if you can, like within Wix, these titles need to stand out if you're going to have them hovering over the image, because like right now it just kind of looks, and some, see, you can really see it here. Here, not so much. Here, hardly at all. Here, hardly at all. And for that reason, it's not as usable, right? Like, I appreciate the addition of the title, but if I can't see it, then it doesn't work, right? I'm going to just go back to the home page because I want to go through these one by one. We've got your experience, which is awesome. So this is, you know, looking really nice with kind of your work history. Your favorite quotes. What I'll say here is that stylistically, this typeface that you've chosen is very different stylistically, right? It's very conservative. It's a serif font and stands out stylistically versus this other aesthetic that you've created here. So again, look for something that's a bit more complementary, right? So this is standing out as extremely, extremely different. Going to go next to About Me. So it seems like there is an About Me, like a separate About Me page here. We get this video and just, you know, a lot of information about your background, but it all looks styled the same, right? It's the same size text, it's the same, you know, kind of body font. Is there a way that you can leverage headings, subheadings, bulleted lists? So this here looks like it could be a bulleted list, right? And then maybe this is a subheading. You know, maybe there's a subheading up here that says the beginning, or my journey into media, or you know, my mission. You know, these things that you can do to make this a bit easier to scan. Also, what's the introduction of this video? Can you give me a title? Can you give me a hint on what I'll get to see if I press play, and you know, if that's worth my time, right? Because you know, imagine that I'm a busy hiring manager and I'm trying to just find out one or two things about you. I'm only going to have time to poke around to so much. So the more information that you can give me about these assets, the better informed I am to make those decisions. So mission work. So here tells me a little bit about what you're involved in and kind of the full scope of you as a person, which is really cool to see. And then we've got the testimonials. So, you know, the idea with testimonials is that, of course, they're all going to say really great things if you're including them on a personal website. And so to have a page that is you know, just solely dedicated to it, it's hard to believe that you know, people are going to take the time to read every single one if the message is all the same, which is Shannon is great. My idea here for you would be to take these images or these testimonials and pepper them throughout the site, which means put one on each page. Give it sort of a different visual appearance. Maybe include a thumbnail of the person who said it. Maybe stylize it in a way that can help you break up other you know, other blocks of dense text. There's these definitely have a place on your portfolio, but probably not like on just one page to include them all. Jumping over to professional. So here, this is kind of plopping me back to that home page in that section. I don't know that professional is the most intuitive title here. skills maybe, or software knowledge maybe. Resume takes me to this page, which gives me just a little bit more about your background. This information is already replicated on your homepage in that kind of timeline aspect, so that's duplicative. And then you've got your leadership. I'm wondering if you even need this page, because on the homepage in this experience, could you add that information here as well? Projects, I'm going to go ahead and click that, and so here we've got your videos. I like how you have sectioned this off into artwork, videos, flyers, graphics, because you've made it like easier to it's organized, which makes it easier to explore. But again, what I'm missing here are titles and explanations of what you did on these projects, right? So you created this video, or did you? Were you just the editor? Were you the camera operator? Are you the on-screen talent? These are all things that you can more fully explain these projects, because chances are you didn't just do one thing. So if you wore many hats, tell people, right? This is what your portfolio is for. I'm going to click on one of these pieces of artwork, and it just pulls up a larger version of it, which is awesome to see. But can you tell me more about it? Does it have a title? What was your medium? Is this watercolor? Is it acrylic? These are all details that are pertinent to you sharing your work here. I'm going to go over to blog. And on blog, we see, just a few posts, and it looks like this is not your student blog, but rather something that you've created to kind of, share stories or your writing style. And I think that that's really important, and, something that a lot of students aren't capitalizing on. If you like writing and you're a decent writer, please go ahead and include writing samples on your portfolio, because as it turns out, writing is really hard, and it's really hard to do well. And so it's definitely a skill set that you should look to highlight and market for yourself. So going to experience next. So this is taking me to this area, which, like I said, under resume, you duplicate a lot of this. It seems like maybe a lot of these pages up here don't need to be links up here. So I go to portfolio. But so what's the difference between portfolio and projects, right? You've made kind of this distinction. This looks like it's just like photography work. So under projects, here on this page, you've got videos, artwork, and event flyers. Why not a section for photography? Not sure why you've teased it out that way. Last but not least, a simple contact form. It takes me kind of to the bottom of this page where we were at before. So I love to hear what people have to say and send questions. But are you for hire? And if so, for what services? These are things that you could look further to detail here. Last but not least, we have Samantha Bailey's portfolio. So this is an evolution of your logo based on feedback, like this kind of typeface that looks like maybe like a Sharpie marker, and that you've included that color scheme that you created. It looks great here. To me, it's kind of Miami Vice or kind of Florida looking, and since I'm from Florida, I'm definitely partial to that. Let's see. So we don't have, okay, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for the navigation, and I had to scroll to see it down here. So I'm wondering if that's the best place for it right away, because I was kind of looking for it, and if I was looking for it, there was a disconnect in my experience, right? I'm going to go ahead and select one of these projects. So it says marketing materials. As I hover over it, it says business card, but can you give me more information about what I'm seeing, right? So I see the logo, and so it's not just logo design, it's not just a business card, there's an overall branding project here, and here's an advertisement. Can you speak more to this experience? Could you put in a case study so that I can understand the full work of what you did here with this client? I'm going to hop back over to portfolio, and I'm going to select. So as I'm hovering over this, right, I can see card for port, screenshot, add in paper, screenshot, right? So that's metadata. That is the title of your image. And so if you do not put that information in there, then it's going to default likely to the file name of that image. So this is like dotting your I's and crossing your T's for somebody who's building a website. That metadata is important, not only contextually for me to understand what I'm looking at, but also for search engine optimization, because those are keywords that can help your site get found. So jumping over the About page, so just a little bit about you, an awesome picture here, and a very cool picture of this cute little kid. It's a very clean page, and you're succinct in telling kind of what you're all about. Contact, why should people contact you? Again, like me having to scroll down here to get to the navigation feels clunky. Now that I know that it's there, I can go back, but it's kind of like an extra step for me to have to scroll and then go. Blog, so welcome to your blog, or maybe it's welcome to my blog, I'm not sure. You've included, it looks like your Linda certificate, but that's it. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and it's just the completion certificate. So this seems a little incomplete to me, because if what you intend to share are just certificates here, then is blog the right name for that? So be thinking about kind of the thoughtfulness of what you name things and the content that you intend to share there. There should be some relevance between the title and the content on that page. Book online, what does that mean? Book for what? Right, describe your service here. So this seems like it is placeholder content for now, but I encourage you to think about how you would use this like in a professional way. What are people booking you for? What is your pricing and your packaging? So this is something that I think that needs to be built out in a more thoughtful way in the next iteration. But certainly excited to see the way that this came alive. I kind of want to go back to the home page, which is the portfolio page here. But kind of a standard practice is to link the image or the brand name to the home page, so that you could click on that and always go home. Overall, you guys, these are nice evolutions of the site that you started in editing for the web and that you've spent some time looking at again this month in Portfolio 3. My encouragement to you is to not stop here, but to continue as you're moving through the program and becoming, more honed in on how you want to present yourself as a professional. Go back and make those changes as they're happening, because you never know when that opportunity is going to strike and someone's going to say, yeah, I'd love a link to your portfolio, and then you have to go, oh, I haven't touched that since Portfolio 3. Do yourself a favor, immediately start to work on the revisions here. Obviously enjoy your Christmas break, but there's more work that needs to be done. If you guys have any questions about the information that I shared here, please let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to continuing to support you on your journey. Thanks, guys.